This is going to be the last reading packet activity that we have for Unit 1. It is the say and do activity for Kang reading, or Kang's reading. The YouTube app for children faces advocates' new complaints over junk food. And so, what you'll need for this is first of all, you'll need the article, which you can find in the anthology that is part of the required texts for this class. The other place you can find it is available online from the New York Times. You'll also need the handout, which is week 302, week 3, day 2, Kang reading part 2. So we did the first part, that was homework that was due Thursday the 7th, and then this is the homework that's due Tuesday the 12th. And what I recommend is that if you're still unsure about how to do this process is described in the Engaging Textbooks questions textbook, page 25 to 26. So I'm going to show you. This is the handout. And what we did the comprehension check in class. So what I would say is that if you weren't in class and you're not sure about how to do it, or some of these seem confusing, that might be something you want to look into. And some of the answers are available in the slides, the link to the slides that I posted on Blackboard, and also in the Living Reader. So you can look at those slides. I'm going to see if I can actually find those. Give me just a moment. The slides are, you won't have this access, but I am going to show you that the slides do exist with some of the answers to the comprehension check questions. And those questions, give me just a sec. So that's the warm-up questions, homework. So here you have some of the answers, not all the answers, but I think what kind of surprised some people was the answers to the second question. So take a look at that, especially if you weren't in class, see if there's anything that you're confused about. But for now, what we're going to do is you have to do the say and do activities. In class, we did the first 3 paragraphs, so paragraph 1 and then paragraphs 2 to 3. And what you're doing is with the say part, you're writing a summary of what it says in the article or what it says in the paragraphs. So you're going to write a summary of it in your own words, trying to paraphrase as much as possible, trying to use your own original language. If you have to borrow words from them, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But it is important that you make sure you understand what those words mean. Look them up if you're unsure. There's some things like, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. You're going to have to use that language. You can't look up a synonym for that. And then in this column over here, you're going to say what they do in that paragraph. So based on, give me a sec. The answers from Thursday, what we did is we read the paragraphs together and then kind of came up with our answers for the first couple. So that means that I'm going to pull out the article and let's see, I think I might have a copy of it. And if you have a copy of the article, now's a good time to pull that out. Let me see. Might not have it on my computer so that I can show you exactly what I'm reading. Oh, here it is. So here I just took the text and copied it into a Word document. So the first paragraph is like Washington. Visit YouTube's Kids, and typically it will not be long before promotions for junk food appear. The advertisers regularly show up in the form of funny contests and animated stories. So what we've got here is what it's saying is it is saying that YouTube Kids has a lot of ads on it. So what it's doing is it's introducing the topic and also the article topic and also the problem that there's all these ads. I'm going to also say, it grabs your attention because it's talking about, let's look at those ideas. So yeah, it's talking about saying like, typically it will not be long before promotions for junk food appear. And I think, for a lot of people, that's kind of alarming if they see, oh, YouTube Kids and then junk food. So it's kind of a little bit alarming, and you're thinking about these funny contests, animated stories. So it is grabbing your attention a little bit. It's giving you something kind of concrete to picture rather than some of the more abstract policy things that they talk about a little bit later in the article. Paragraphs 2 and 3, I'll go ahead and read those. I chunked those together. In complaints filed to federal officials on Tuesday, 2 prominent consumer advocacy groups argued that those ads were deceptive, particularly for children. The 2 complaints made to the Federal Trade Commission expand on the group's filings to the agency in April and could increase the pressure on federal officials to intervene in the fast-growing online video market. The groups, Campaign for Commercial-Free Childhood and the Digital Center for Democracy, argue in the complaints that online video aimed at children is too commercialized and is not held to the same standards that apply to cable and broadcast television. The complaints call for an investigation of food marketers, video programmers, and Google, which owns YouTube, as well as for a broad examination of advertising of such food to children online. So, I chunked these 2 together since they were on a similar topic and kind of performing a similar function. So, what I said here was that activist groups are taking action against YouTube's pervasive advertising. So that's a summary of the information in the article. And the next thing I want to think about is doing. So what's it doing? What is the effect that it has on the reader as they're reading it? And what I said is that it shows people, it shows how people are responding to the problem / trying to fix the problem. So that's kind of that next part. Let's try and do just one more so you can kind of get a sense for how this works, kind of get a sense for like what the next part might look like. So I'm going to read paragraph 4. And one thing I recommend is that I usually mark these up with the paragraph numbers in my own personal copy of the reader. So do that because that will be required for citations and will also be, I think, is a helpful way so that you can refer back to it. And I think it's good to get in that habit of marking the different paragraph numbers. So here's paragraph 4. You have digital natives consuming content simultaneously with the growth of powerful marketing at children at the earliest ages, said Jeffrey Chester, Executive Director of the Center for Digital Democracy. The agencies are lagging and the companies are emboldened. So, again, I think one thing to note is that you have this individual, an executive director of the Center for Digital Democracy. So you have this expert opinion that that's something that's happening. That's a technique that the writer is using to help the reader, kind of pull them along in their writing and kind of seeing their perspective. So expert opinion, so that's one thing that's happening. And then another thing, let's see. So we have this idea of agencies lagging, and I think this is something that, even though it's a little abstract, I think this language, lagging, is, this kind of physical thing. And the idea of companies being emboldened, I think, is, a little bit frightening for parents thinking about this, especially within the context of companies advertising to their children. So, and I think especially when you are mentioning the growth of powerful marketing at children at the earliest ages. So I think that another thing that's happening here is we see some kind of emotional appeal. This idea of, young children are going to be, exposed to these things. It can be really frightening for parents. So I think, what he's doing it also, so in addition to using these techniques, what he's doing in kind of a larger sense is he's defining the problem more. He's giving, the policy that's motivated, that's moving forward these solutions. This is what it stems from. These children who are being exposed at this alarming rate. So I'm going to say an example of the problem. So that, this harsher example of the problem. And let's see. So that was one case. Usually when I do these, what I do is I pick out what it says and then I do the do part. And that didn't happen here. Like, I was able to pick out the expert opinion right away, the emotional appeal right away, and then kind of from there, it made sense to categorize that, okay, he's giving this example of the problem. So let's go back, let's summarize what was being said in there. So there's this idea that, let's see, so digital natives consuming content simultaneously with the growth of powerful marketing. So like the rate of marketing develops faster than policies to contain it, and children are taking in lots of marketing content. So there might be a smoother way to say it, but I think that captures like kind of some of the concern and some of the ideas. So the rate of marketing develops faster than the policies to contain it, and children are taking in lots of marketing content. So yeah, I think there's a better way to say that, but that'll be good for now. So I hope this makes a little bit more sense so that you can kind of follow along, so that you're summarizing this, thinking about what it's doing. What's the effect that it's having on the reader? Why is the author making these choices, and what are they doing with the text? So this is something that is a really important, really crucial building block when you're writing these papers, and especially when you're doing the WPA, when we get ready for the midterm. So this is one of the small building blocks, and what we're going to look at even more is how to take this kind of information and turn it into the prose that's really going to help you do well on the midterm and help you do well on the WPA. Hope you're excited.